What words come to your mind when you see a shelter dog? Sad? Scared? Alone? That sounds pretty stressful. Maybe you wish you could do something to help. Of course, the simplest way to help would be to adopt the shelter dog. But if you cannot adopt it, then what? One option would be to give the dog enrichment to reduce its stress. And that is what I researched for my independent study at the College of Wooster. To begin, what is enrichment and what is stress? In 1995, Newberry proposed a definition that is now widely accepted. Enrichment is the modification of a captive animal's environment in order to improve the animal's health. However, stress cannot be so simply defined. Scientists prefer to use the term stress response, which is a combination of physiological and behavioral responses an animal uses to survive a stressor. Researchers suggest that both physiological and behavioral measures should be used to better understand an animal's stress response. Thus, in my research, I chose to study shelter dog behavior and cortisol levels in response to enrichment. I recorded all the dog behavior that I saw in my study, like the number of times the dogs barked, whined, or yawned, or how long the dogs panted. Past literature suggests that those measures and more are indicative of kennel stress. Thanks to my Copeland funds, I was also able to study the dog's cortisol levels. Cortisol is a glucocorticoid, that is, a hormone, that stimulates stress responses in the body, like the release of glucose into the blood or increased heart rate. Cortisol can be easily sampled from the canine cephalic vein, a large, visible vein on the dog's front leg. Lowered levels of cortisol are thought to be indicative of lower stress environments. For the enrichment in my study, I built upon the methods of much past research with dogs in shelters. I did my research at the Wayne County Humane Society in Wooster, Ohio. Every dog in my study participated in one 10-minute treatment, either the petting treatment, the free walk treatment, the walk cage treatment, or the home cage treatment. In the petting enrichment treatment, a volunteer petted the leashed dog in a small, quiet room. In the free walk enrichment treatment, a volunteer let the dog off-leash in a large outdoor pen. In the walk cage control treatment, the volunteer walked the dog outside for 2 minutes and then returned the dog to its cage for the remainder of the treatment. In the home cage control treatment, the volunteer returned the dog to its kennel for the entire treatment. With the help of the Humane Society staff and my IS volunteers, I tested 32 dogs from November 2014 to February 2015. In total, over 75 hours of data collection. Regarding behavior, I found that dogs in the control conditions, meaning dogs that were not receiving enrichment, panted, whined, and yawned significantly more than dogs in the enrichment treatments. All three behaviors are associated with kennel stress, so it appears the enrichment treatments reduced the dog's stress response behaviors. However, the enrichment had no effect on the cortisol levels of the dogs. Cortisol samples were taken before and after the treatments, but across all the treatments, these cortisol samples were not significantly different. Past research suggests that 15 to 25-minute enrichment treatments can significantly reduce cortisol. Thus, the minimum amount of enrichment needed to reduce cortisol may lie somewhere between 10 to 15 minutes. Although not significant, I did find an interesting trend that the overall home cage change in cortisol level was different from the overall walk cage change in cortisol level. Perhaps with a greater sample size, I could have found that taking a dog out for a 2-minute walk significantly reduces the cortisol levels compared to leaving the dog in its kennel for 10 minutes. This is interesting because there was no trend when the dogs were walked for 10 minutes. The only difference between the 2-minute and 10-minute walk treatments was that in the 2-minute walk, the dogs were leashed, so perhaps a leashed walk is more enriching than a non-leashed walk. Another potential reason for this difference could be that the outdoor walk environment was enriching for 2 minutes, but became too stimulating after 10 minutes. In the end, while 10 minutes of enrichment may not reduce cortisol levels, We do know that 10 minutes of enrichment can significantly reduce kennel stress behaviors like whining, panting, and yawning. Clearly, if you can give a shelter dog at least 10 minutes of enrichment, you can positively impact their behavior. And if you give it a bit more time, who knows? Maybe you'll reduce their cortisol. Please support your local shelter, as every minute counts.